Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. This is Black Horse Sign of Black in again. And asking you to hit that share button before you even hit the like or the subscribe. Listen, then share, then decide if you want to hit like or subscribe, because the message is more important than the messenger. This is going to be my third counterattack to niggas, matriarchal mandingo niggas. And let me say that when I call them matriarchal mandingos, I call them that because the name's more likely to stick. In all honesty, as a descendant of the Mandinka people, I have no intentions to insult them. You see, the matriarchal mandingos aren't really mandingos. It's like they're fakes. They think they are because the women validate them as mandingo warriors in the bed. But in reality, they're lucky in that regard. But when they're matriarchal mandingos, they're only mandingo warriors on behalf of the matriarchy, not even in their own best interest. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Super Sly and his crew, and C Boogie by extension, and even Gab Talks Media, if he ever says anything about brothers who travel, and I mean travel to find wives. These guys will say that they're not really against brothers traveling, and that's a valid point for them to make. And if they're not really against brothers traveling, then they're not as close-minded as you may stereotype them to be, but they are pretty much saying, but why travel for the ladies? And what I'm saying is this: I agree. Men shouldn't have to do that. But what you fail to understand is that Western women force this. And I'm going to tell you something else. Now, Super Sly, you a stepdad. And you're a stepdad for a biracial lady. That doesn't bother me. But if you are one, you can't come along and tell us not to fly out to where we got better options. Whether you only believe in marriage like I do when I got married, or whether you believe in just dating casually, or you believe in paying to play. And I don't believe in dating casually or paying to play, but the point is that in order to find a natural relationship, you have to leave the West many times, because if you're a normal man, you know what the options are. See, Boogie went to the gym, worked on himself, all that stuff, became select, as he's saying, but I don't know about your gym time, and it's not really my business. The point is that you are a stepdad, and unless somebody is raising your kids and being a stepmom to your kids, there's no reason that you got to be a stepdad. And it's nothing against the child. The child is innocent. But you have to understand that your options were limited through no fault of yours. So if you were not a father, but you are a stepfather, your options were limited. And they were limited not even because of you being flawed. They were limited because you're normal. So that's what happens in the West. You don't have to be a flawed man or a lacking man to be limited in your options. You just have to be a normal man. This is what people fail to understand, because the market is jacked up. I am a normal man. I am as flawed as other men are, but I'm not overall a flawed man. I'm not below normal. I'm not mediocre. My game isn't even mediocre. The problem is that women are under social pressure to impress their friends. And you can't do that with things that are deep. You have to use shallow traits to impress your friends. And therefore, the traits that are visible right off the bat are, they don't even make me recognizable within our race. And even now, with just a lot of sisters swirling, there are a lot of them who don't, but even now with a lot of sisters swirling, they can't really use me to impress their friends because I'm not white enough for that. I'm not pale enough. I don't pass as white. I just don't pass as one of us. And other men have other reasons for which they are treated as though they are subpar and mediocre. And these are very shallow reasons, and Rebecca Lynn Pope admitted to this. Rebecca Lynn Pope once had to take a testosterone supplement when she was menopausal. And she then began to understand that from having merely a tenth to a 20th of the testosterone in her bloodstream that men have, she began to realize how serious it is for men and how we were made to be the way we are. And she developed more sympathy. Many Western women don't have sympathy with for men being the way that God made them to be, simply for being heterosexual men. This is not fair to you or me or to anybody else for that matter. It's not even fair to the women, because when they don't have this type of sympathy, what do? You see the choices they make. It's just that you feel like you've been validated for whatever reason because a biracial chick chose you to be stepdad. And whether she likes you or not is not really our business. The point is, if you chose to not be a stepdad, you know what the options are, and you know how much more difficult it is. And I know because I've been there. See, Boogie, he may have more options now. But he had to hit the gym to do it. It's not wrong that women like muscles. The point is that for him to be treated without being given a bunch of headaches, he had to hit the gym. The other thing, too, was that he was with a white woman. So he's advertising and acting in the interest of a set of women he did not choose to marry. And that white woman left him. And he left her. That's what happened. So you guys are defending women that you haven't even chosen. But let me go on to some other guys, though, like Memphis Hustlers and Jedi Mac. First off, the name Memphis Hustlers shows that one is proud of a nigger persona, a stereotypical nigger persona. Memphis Hustler. Come on now. Everybody knows Memphis is ratchet. You ain't even got to be ratchet. You advertise Memphis, that's what the hell happens. If I advertise my city, which is a very trifling city, that's exactly what people could get from it, even before I said hustler or nigger or jigaboo or Birdman or anything like that. So that right there says something. And then you guys are sitting up saying the more Super Sly talks, the more sense he makes. Well, the thing is, I honestly didn't get to hear the interview because it was, for some reason, it was blocked in the country in which I live in now, to be honest with you. But what I could say, though, is that you can't invalidate points that are obvious. And the point that is obvious right now was that the Western woman, white or black, is driving men away. That's it. When you leave the Matrix, there are different cultures, and some of them, they're not even Western, and they got ratchet women. But then you got cultures that are not Western, and they don't turn out a whole bunch of ratchet women. They are individuals, but they're not turning out crops of ratchet women. Some of you would say, well, you can't call a woman ratchet just because she didn't select you. You're right, I cannot, unless, of course, they describe me as the man that they want, and then turn around and select something else. If they describe me as what they're looking for and then turn around and act differently, then I can call them ratchet, because that's hypocritical. So it really depends on what they say. And again, you fail to understand that red pill rage, brothers leaving, the reaction that a lot of productive and thinking brothers have to these women is based on the fact, first off, that the women lied, and that is worse than their low down preferences. Their damn lying is the problem. That is what really drives men away. You lie about it. Then you turn around and you show that you're lying. And then when you get older and you get caught in the lies, you want to turn around and reason every justification for why you lied, and even try to redefine words, as opposed to admitting that men were deceived by women, and even the women in their own families, until the day that Western women sit their sons and nephews and younger cousins and younger brothers and their grandsons down and say, this is what we actually want, and this is how we will treat men based on these shallow things. And this is the game. And you can play the game, or you can plan a life by yourself. And you're really not wrong for doing whichever one is the best one for you and your health. Until that day that they can tell an 11-year-old boy this. until the day that they can sit their daughters and their nieces and their granddaughters down and say to them, Disney princess movies are not only fantasy, they're not real, they're actually a goddamn lie, and life is going to be the exact opposite of it if you really want to know the truth. Until the day they can sit down and say, look, good men have their flaws, and they're not necessarily moral flaws. There are only a few moral flaws come in a good man by definition, but men have their limits. They're stronger than you, and they still got their limits. If they don't sleep at night, they're going to fall asleep during the day, and they're not going to function well. If you don't put good food in their bodies, they're going to get sick. Their health is going to fail. They cannot fly, they are not bulletproof. If they do not work, they do not get paid. If they do not save, they do not have any money for emergencies. These are the limits of men, and these limits are not their fault. And if you cannot live with these limits in all men, then you don't deserve to have a man at all. Whether it's just a F-buddy, a boyfriend, or a husband. Oh, and by the way, sex is important to them just like it's important to you. If you don't respect that about them, you don't deserve them. Until the day that they're sat down and they're told this sort of thing, and told explicitly at a young age, then you can pretty much hang up and give up on the idea of the marketplace correcting itself and the situation improving. And whenever anybody will tell you that when you have a terrible car market with which to sell or buy cars, people are simply going to go to another market. And nobody blames the consumer. And if you have a market where you cannot sell good cars that you took good care of, anybody would tell you you're not wrong because you leave that market and you sell your car in another market. No one would dare say this. But when it comes down to Western black men deciding to go to better markets, all of a sudden y'all niggas got something to say. And you lied about it. The last thing I'm going to say before I leave out is going to be that when you say stuff like this, when you blame stuff like what you all said, calling them pedophiles, when you blame an innocent party for something that they did not do, and investigators have to investigate the crime and they find out that you fingered an innocent person as a suspect, they have to investigate why you would do it. Now, if you made an honest mistake, then you made an honest mistake. But if you did it with no evidence at all, and it was not an honest mistake on your part, then they determine that you are actually aiding and abetting the crime. So the main criminal who committed the actual crime is going to face their charges when they catch them, but you are considered to have aided and abetted the real criminal and obstructed justice. Now, obstruction of justice is one crime. Aiding and abetting a crime is another crime. What reason do you have for accusing a bunch of men for something that they didn't do, and it was that serious? It is because you wanted to get them killed. Because in many places, committing a crime like that will get you killed. Being accused of it will get you killed. You were trying to get a bunch of brothers killed. That's really what you were trying to do. Now, other people didn't peep game like this, but that's what y'all were trying to do. Because you know that in these third world nations, if they did something like that, if they were accused of it, they would get killed. And that's what you were hoping for. May Allah curse you. I hope this has been a benefit. Sign and black out.